Hello everyone. Today we will talk about a home weather station with a large display. Since you are on the China channel in a smart home, our weather station is smart and connects via Wi-Fi to a smart home. Thanks to this, it shows not only the temperature and humidity, but also the weather forecast, time and date, and is also controlled through the Tuya Smart application. On the large display, we can see not only the temperature and humidity next to the main unit of the weather station, but also connect up to 10 wireless sensors that will alternately display climate information in at least each room. Let's consider all the capabilities of this device. Test it and check its smart capabilities in the Tuya Smart and Home Assistant Smart Home. And yes, there is no frost now. But I will find it and we will see how the sensor feels in the freezer. Device specifications. Display, LCD screen, display of temperature, humidity, weather forecast, time and date. Power, DC 5V1A, Type-C, sensor power 2 AAA batteries. Wi-Fi, 2.4 GHz. Sensor protocol, 433 MHz. Temperature measurement range, from -10 to +60 degrees Celsius. Humidity range, from 0% to 99%. Measurement accuracy, temperature, ±3 degrees Celsius, and humidity ±3%. Data is updated in real time. Maximum sensors, up to 10 additional sensors. Wireless radius of sensors, up to 100 meters in open areas. Display support, degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit. Notifications, high/low temperature and humidity. Signal loss. Low battery of sensors. Dimensions. Monitor 105 by 76 by 16 mm. Sensors 72 by 25 by 20 mm. Application Tuya Smart/Smart Life. The product comes in a cardboard box like this. On the front side we see the main panel and two sensors that come in the kit. I'll get ahead of myself and say that the sensors can be purchased separately. I'll leave the links in the description. On the left and right sides are the main advantages of the weather station. And on the back side we see the main characteristics and a QR code for downloading and installing the Smart Life application. Although I recommend Tuya Smart, there is no need to worry about delivery. The weather station and sensors are packed in a plastic box. Here we also find a small instruction. As we can see from it, there are two types of weather stations. They differ in the number of sensors included in the kit, 2 or 4 pieces. Next, we see the main characteristics and decoding of the display of the weather station icon and setting buttons. On the other side, there is an instruction for adding sensors. We have 2 sensors, which means that 2 sets of batteries are already included in the kit. For this, a plus to the seller, buy and use immediately. There are also 2 pieces of double-sided tape. They are needed to attach the sensors anywhere. Although, if necessary, they can simply be put on a shelf, for example. But you can also attach them to a small cord, which is also included in the kit, and hang them on a hook or nail. The ears for fastening are on the back of the sensor and then we hang the sensor on the cord. Convenient and thoughtful. And in order not to confuse the sensor, which one is the first, and which one will be, for example, the 8th, the kit includes small stickers for marking external temperature and humidity sensors. To connect the weather station to a 5-volt power supply, there is such a cable. On one side there is a standard USB port, on the other USB Type-B for connecting to the weather station itself. We have a weather station with 2 sensors. Here they are located under the main module. In fact, they are ordinary, one might say familiar to those familiar with the topic of smart home and climate sensors. Plastic case, on the front part of the image of a thermometer, so that we do not confuse it with the opening sensor. Under it is an LED. In the lower part there is a hole. There is most likely a temperature and humidity sensor. Now we will check. Powered by 2 AAA batteries. They are located under the back cover. It is on small clicks, slightly shifted and opened. Here, in addition to the compartment for 2 batteries, there is also a sensor reset button. Hold it until the LED starts blinking. Everything is reset and untied from the station. Now let's move on to our station. The entire front part is occupied by a large display. The frames are quite thin, except for the bottom one, but this is more to protect the display since it is installed on it. On the left and right sides there are holes for ventilation of the built-in temperature and humidity sensor. The weather station can be installed on a flat surface. To do this, slightly unfasten the back cover, which is the leg, or we can hang the weather station on the wall. There is a special eye for this at the top, so that the power cable does not interfere with us. A slot is made for it. The same slot is made around the connection port to make it convenient to connect. There are 3 physical buttons. The first is to change the clock in 12 or 24-hour format. Next, change the temperature units from degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. The last button is to put the weather station into pairing mode with the Tuya application. To do this, hold for 5 seconds until the Wi-Fi indicator on the panel starts blinking. If we have more than 2 external sensors, then a single press will switch the display of information from the third or fourth. When we turn it on for the first time, we see a completely wrong time and date, and the weather too. At the top, we see only the temperature and humidity values from the temperature and humidity sensor built into the weather station. We need to do further actions from the Tuya Smart smart home program. We put the weather station into pairing mode by holding the button on the back for 5 seconds. After the Wi-Fi indicator starts blinking, launch the Tuya application. Here you can wait a little and the device will be automatically found. If this does not happen, click the plus at the top. Here we select any device with a Wi-Fi connection, for example, a socket. Select your Wi-Fi network and specify the password for it. Click 3 times further, on all the program questions. In the last window, we indicate that our indicator is blinking quickly. And wait about 10 to 20 seconds. Now our weather station has been found, and it is added to the Tuya Smart smart home ecosystem. After successful connection, the weather station display will update the time and date, as well as the current weather. Weather data will be taken from your location and internet settings. Let's go to the application and add 2 new sensors, and then we'll figure out all the features of the program and test it. Here, everything is actually simple. In the right corner, press the plus. Switch the sensor to pairing mode by holding the button. Here, 1 sensor has been found. Now add the second sensor. Press the plus again and drop the second sensor. All sensors have been found again. For some reason, 2 sensors did not want to be together, that is, we add sensors one by one. As we can see, 2 sensors have been added to the device. Our main one is here, and we immediately have one and the second one. We see them in the same way on the panel of our weather station. I will take 1 sensor to the first floor. I will take the second sensor outside, and the weather station will be on the second floor. From the main menu of the application, we can immediately view the current temperature and humidity from the temperature and humidity sensor built into the weather station. This is convenient so as not to go inside the plugin. But we will still go there. Another plus is that on the main panel we see the temperature and humidity from 2 external sensors, convenient. Immediately after opening, we are offered to install firmware updates. This is a very good sign that the manufacturer supports the device and releases updates that, for example, can expand the functionality or add something new. In the main window, at the top, we see the temperature and humidity from the main module of the weather station. And below we see data from 2 remote sensors. If there are more than 2 sensors, you can switch their display output from flat to square, then it will be easier to view information from 4 or even 10 sensors. A thoughtful solution. But the thoughtfulness of the solution does not end there. Each sensor is a separate element with its own settings and even automations. We select any of them and we will get to the plugin of the sensor itself. At the top are the current temperature and humidity indicators. Below is a graph of temperature and humidity by day. To view the history by days, months and years, click on the ellipsis. We can view the entire history of data from the temperature sensor. If necessary, you can share this data by sending it to email. With each sensor, you can create your own automation in a smart home. And this is despite the fact that the sensors do not directly connect to the smart home. That is, the weather station serves as a kind of gateway between 433 MHz temperature sensors and other smart home devices. For example, if the sensor temperature is more than 30 degrees Celsius, turn on the air conditioner or open the watering. A very interesting feature in smart home automation. In addition, for each sensor, we can configure our own alarm parameters. This can be enabled separately for both temperature and humidity. Disabled by default. By default, the alarm will be displayed in a pop-up notification. For an additional fee, you can activate SMS or a call. All alarms are logged, you can view them in this menu. What surprised me is that each of the sensors has its own settings. Each sensor will have its own values of the current battery state. Further, each sensor can be calibrated by temperature, adding or subtracting the desired tenths of a degree. If you have a reference thermometer, you can calibrate the values of this sensor using it and get completely accurate data to the 10th degree. The same can be done with humidity data. The calibration step is 1% plus or minus. By default, a notification about a weak battery charge is enabled. I must say, I am surprised by such capabilities. Let's go back to our weather station. At the bottom, select the Statistics menu item. Here, in the hourly section, we see temperature and humidity statistics. This is the weather station sensor. We can select the first or second external sensor. Here are the values. And in the second sensor, they are already like this. To go to the graph by day, month and year, click on the icon at the top. Now we see information about temperature and humidity in the daily section. Here we switch to month or, if we need, to annual statistics. At the top, select the sensor or main device we need. You can conveniently and quickly look at it. There is no need to go to sensors and search there, everything is at hand. The next tab is alarm settings. By default, everything is off. We can set the temperature and humidity range, going beyond which will cause an alarm. By default, this is a pop-up message from the application, but you can enable SMS or a call, a paid service. Additionally, you can open the log or statistics of alarm triggers. We looked at this for the main block of the weather station. At the top, we can also select one of the two added sensors and configure your own automation parameters for each. The very last tab is Settings. From the settings, we have access to the ability to calibrate the temperature and humidity sensor built into the weather station. Also a very important and necessary setting, which most modern weather stations lack. That is, the accuracy of the output results can be made ideal. In the global settings, we can view information about the device, share with other family members. At the time of creating the review, a firmware update was received. The final firmware is 1.03, and the MCU version is 1.20. Automation. In terms of automation, our device can only act as if, since the device cannot perform any actions, only measure temperature or humidity. Let's go to the automation section. And here, as I said earlier about sensors, they are a separate device for creating automations. The head unit allows you to create a scenario if the temperature and/or humidity, then we do something or start. In external sensors, a condition is added for the battery charge strength. Overall, it was expected what we wanted from a weather station. Let's check what the device can do in the Home Assistant smart home ecosystem. Open our server and go to Devices and Services, and go to the Tuya integration. It can be either Tuya or local Tuya since the device works via the Wi-Fi protocol. Reboot the integration. And find our device. But as in the case of the Tuya Smart ecosystem, we have not one, but three separate devices. Here are the sensors. Go inside, see the devices, and here we see two sensors, temperature and humidity, which we can add to dashboard. Let's go and see what our sensors can do. Here is a sensor. Here we see the same thing, temperature and humidity. And we also see the battery charge status. All the same applies to the second sensor. Accordingly, we can not only receive information about temperature and humidity from all sensors, but also use them in smart home automation. I don't see the point in measuring the readings exactly, but I still brought hygrometers from Xiaomi for comparison, which I think are quite accurate. There is no point in saying why, because we can calibrate any of the sensors, and this is a huge plus. Let's check how quickly the readings change. Here I take a remote sensor in my hands and breathe on it. Well, there is a delay, but it is very minimal compared to wireless Zigbee sensors, where it can reach 2 minutes. Let's check the device itself. I breathe on it. It also reacts quite quickly to changes in temperature and humidity. Let's go test frost and heat. Here is my freezer. Judging by the refrigerator thermometer, it is -19 degrees. The pyrometer also confirms this. We put one of the remote sensors there. We put the second sensor in the oven. I heated it to a temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. Let's watch the readings. As we can see on one of the sensors, which is in our heat, it is already 55 and 8 degrees. In the application, it is also 55 and 29% humidity. I don't see any more point in torturing it. We are waiting for the sensor that is in our freezer. We leave the sensor from the heat to cool down. Well, as you yourself were able to see, our sensors work both in the heat and in the cold. Now the sensor is -20 degrees, and the sensor that recorded the heat has already returned to room temperature. This is visible both on the weather station itself, and we can see the same thing in the application. So, in the heat, the sensors work, in the cold, the sensors work, and you can use them outside. Let's start with the pros. This is the appearance, really nothing superfluous, and a very large and excellent display, the information on which is visible from almost any angle. The second is the ability to place both on the table and on the wall, thoughtful cable fastening. The third is the ability to connect and display information from 10 different sensors, which will allow one weather station to be a single brain of the climate in the house. Displaying the current weather, which is taken from the internet, is also useful. You can forget to look out the window and leave the house without an umbrella, or on the contrary with it, when the sun is already shining. The fact that all sensors can be calibrated is the biggest plus. You will always have accurate data on the climate. The fact that the connected sensors are full-fledged participants in the smart home is also a plus, and a huge one, since you do not need to buy separate sensors for each room, but use the weather station sensors in the climate automation. Well, if you are already picky, there is not enough display backlighting. I am picky a little, but still. I can recommend buying a very cool thing in a smart home. And even if you are not going to build it yet, then with a reserve for the future. At least turning on the air conditioner or heating through a smart outlet is already a big step in building a smart home. But comfort is the main thing. You will find all the links to the products in the description under the video. There is also a link to the group in Telegram, where you will find not only new products on the smart home system, but also coupons, promotions and other communication and answers to questions. There are also links to the smart home forum, where all topics are divided into sections for more convenient communication and information search. Please do not forget to like if you liked the video, and subscribe to the channel so as not to miss other interesting videos about smart and not so smart home systems. All the best to everyone, peaceful skies and goodness. Bye, bye.